All right, everybody, good evening. I'm just going to wait for a few more to come on, and then I'm going to rock and roll. So just hang tight. Hang tight. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to get on, and then I'm going to get started. Hey, Mr. Don. Good to see ya. This is going to be some awesome, very interesting stuff for a lot of you. So I'm excited. It's really, really cool. Just going to wait a couple more seconds here. We'll start in 30 seconds. In the meantime, you can say hi to Juno. Hey, Juno. She's a good little puppy. All right. I love it, Marianne. Good stuff. Good for you. All right. Okay. So here is the gist of food cravings. Okay, is that cravings are clues. So they are most notable and most relevant when your body is under stress, okay, or going through stressful periods. That is when you need to listen, especially to what cravings you are experiencing in those moments. And because that is your body giving you some clues in how it is best trying to serve you by essentially mitigating or defending your body against that stress. So the issue with these clues that our body gives us is that as a society, we have been taught to suppress and ignore our symptoms. We are downright brainwashed to do that. When you have a headache, you take a Tylenol. When you or your child has a fever, you lower it, right? When you have chest congestion or nasal congestion, you get an antibiotic. When you have heartburn, you take Tums or Pepcid AC. When you have high blood pressure, you take lisinopril. When you have cancer, you get chemotherapy. When you have gallbladder pain, you cut it out, right? So the issue with doing that, beyond the obvious, is that it's never going to help you to identify what the causation of your issues are. If you just simply suppress or excise where the symptom is coming from, you're never going to be able to figure out and sort of look for the clues as far as what's happening in your body in that moment. So one just kind of quick example, and I'll say that most of what this is, I'm going to go over here in the next 15 minutes, is really based a lot on Chinese medicine principles. And I wouldn't say that we can take these as sort of like hard, fast, scientifically, empirical data, research truths. However, Chinese medicine, if you will, and the philosophy of it has been around for thousands of years, more than the United States has even been a country, right? And it is still practiced to this day, and it still gets success to this day. And so I think that we can, look at the wisdom, the ancient wisdom, if you will, the longevity of its principles as at least worth exploring or digging into deeper for yourself. So a couple just fun examples. And I really would say that, we need to look at this and like kind of have fun with this a little bit. So hopefully we can have some fun with this tonight. And so one quick example, crunchy foods. If you are a person that craves crunchy foods while you are, especially again, while you're stressed, not always, but stress is especially the time when it's going to be most heightened, is that those people, according to Chinese medicine, are often seeking attention, all right? It's often a cry for needing attention. So they do something very loud because they're trying to get attention from those around them. Now, before we get too into this here, we got to remember that sometimes cravings are legitimate. They are a physiological functional need. Most of the other cravings that we're going to go through here, the sweet, the sour, the spicy, and the salty, are going to come from more of a really deep physiological, like organic level. Like organic, like organ, but also from a psychological, mental, and emotional state too. So, but some cravings are legitimate, right? If you're thirsty and you need water, well, drink water. That doesn't really mean anything else other than you need water, right? Sometimes when we're stressed, we need extra protein. So if you're stressed and you're like, I just really could use a big, fat ribeye steak or grass-fed burger or something like that, like that's your body needing the protein for the amino acids, right, for consumption and for normal body processes. So the first one we're going to go over is sweet, okay? So if you are a sweet person, go ahead and write "that's me" in the comment section. I want to see who's engaged here, and let's have a little fun with this. So if you are sweet, maybe click the like button, or say me, or say I don't have a sweet tooth, I have sweet teeth, whatever it is. So if you're a sweet tooth, show me some love. That's me, yeah. All right, so if you're a sweet tooth, go ahead and like this. For those of you that are watching, the 11 people that are watching right this second, my guess is probably 8 of you are actually, this is going to be your number one craving. So you're just in denial. And of course, those who are in denial are the ones that end up in a nursing home because you're not willing to actually explore where your health challenges are. So people with sweet teeth, right, or a sweet tooth or sweet cravings, are typically operate in a low physiological energy state, okay, a low energy state. And what it is that your body is starving and craving for energy, specifically within the mitochondria, which are the power plants of your cells. And so what will happen is it'll give those cravings for sugar, for that kind of quick energy fix, right, which nothing is going to bring energy into the body faster than sugar does. There's nothing that does it faster than that. Well, I guess there's certain forms that do it, faster than just like table sugar, right? Like high fructose corn syrup and agave nectar and things like that do it faster than just straight up sugar. A lot of carbs will do it even faster than sugar, like certain cereals and breads and whatnot. But what will happen is it'll give you that quick energy burst, but of course it's short-lived, and therefore it'll crash down. Your energy will crash back down again. Mitochondria are, once again, I need the energy. So what does it do? It gives those cravings again. It's like, give me another quick burst, like boom, you throw another donut in, or another slice of bread, or a bunch of crackers, or a couple of cookies, or just a few M&Ms, right? Just I have a little bag that I keep as a stash in my office desk, right? Just in case I need a few M&Ms, right? As if somehow those were imperative to the survival of not only you, but the human race, right? For you to have a few of those. You know who you are if you're watching this. Or, oh no, I don't eat M&Ms, but here you are, you're slugging on your vanilla latte, right, from Starbucks that you picked up on the way to work, right? You're like, oh no, that's definitely not me, and yet you're having your your sandwich with bread, or your leftover pasta noodles with marinara sauce for lunch, right? It's like, this is way more of you than you probably want to admit, but it's the truth. So the main emotion that is associated with sugar cravings is disconnect. All right, and I found this to be very interesting, and I'll be curious to see kind of the more people that I work with on more intensive levels, if there's maybe something to this a lot more. But when you think about it, the very first taste that we all had, right, that babies have, within a few minutes of entering the world is, of course, in an ideal situation, it's mother's milk, right? And the interesting thing is that there's a lot of sugar that is found in mother's milk, specifically in the form of a type of sugar called galactose, right? So it's kind of pure. It's really just a bunch of fat and sugar kind of mixed in together with that. So that's our very first taste. And so you think about, there's that initial, we know through research now, how there's that just imperative bonding process that happens, not only during birth, like, while you're pregnant as a mother, or if your wife is as a father, but especially in that first moment when the baby enters the world, it's now in a new environment and it begins to connect with new life outside of its body, right? It's that skin to skin contact. It's that releasing of oxytocin, right? That literally that love chemical. I mean, oxytocin is really only released during, breastfeeding, sex, a little bit during hugs, right? And also that first kind of skin to skin contact, which is, really, really cool. And so, in reality, because of that process, like really, we kind of are all born with the sweet tooth, because that is our first, we're going to associate connection, love, warmth, safety, right? All of that with that sweet kind of feeling. So if you notice, if this is you, a lot of times when you are feeling like stressed, right? Or if you need some sort of pleasure in your life, if you're feeling down, if you had a rough day, whatever, and if you notice like, oh, I'm getting a sugar craving, well, if you think about it, you've sort of been biologically hardwired from really the minutes when you've been born to associate connection and pleasure with something that is going to be sweet tasting. Okay. So the problem is that, of course, we're not reaching for something nutritious like mother's milk in order to satisfy that craving, right? I don't recommend that. If you are a 30-year-old male, you might end up in jail, right? If you are trying to say I'm following doctor's orders, right? For something like that. So main emotion is disconnect. Of course, we live in an unfortunate society now where disconnect can happen in way too many forms. I mean, there can be abuse, there can be neglect, there can be parents leaving, there can be divorce, there can be all sorts of just things that were not your fault that happen to you that create disconnect in our lives. And so it leaves many of us in moments where we're experiencing disconnect and displeasure, and we of course reach for that self-soothing, right? Babies will nurse for soothing. They will almost, in a way, and I hate to use this word, but just to use it strongly, they're kind of medicated or calmed down, right? If you have a crying, fussy baby, you pop a boob in their mouth and give them some milk, they tend to calm down. Why? Because it's creating that connection and that self-soothing process. So many of us try to do that as adults, right, with sugar, but the problem is that those moments, of course, are very short-lived, right? I mean, we all know that eating, that ice cream sundae, for after dinner for dessert. I mean, let's be honest. For 99.9% of us watching that right now, like nobody's going to say like that is not yummy. It doesn't taste good, and it doesn't bring pleasure in those moments. The problem is that it typically only lasts about 1 to 5 minutes, depending upon how fast you eat, right? And then unfortunately what happens after that is you get the energy drag, or maybe you get the GI disruption, you get the blood sugar crash. And it's rare that an hour or 2 or 3 or 4 hours after I've had something sugary that I look back and I'm like, oh man, that was worth it. That was like one of the best decisions I've made in a long time. And I think you're all with me on that, is that very rarely do we feel that. Okay. So they're very short-lived, unfortunately, moments for that. Now, if you'll notice too, a lot of people then that are addicted in other ways and looking for that connection, like for example, a lot of alcoholics will oftentimes turn to sugar or nicotine or other type of dopamine, stimulating activities, right? So the issue, and if we kind of just all consider ourselves sugar addicts, right? Maybe not alcoholics, but sugar addicts, is that we need to not look necessarily for a lateral shift, right? So it's like, oh, well, I'm just going to replace my M&Ms with like the Whole Foods version of M&Ms, right? Because I'm going to get the organic sugar and the organic chocolate, right? That's a lateral shift that is not dealing with the root cause of what your issue is. So we have to really, instead of moving lateral, you have to actually look at more vertical. So, you know, with people with the sweet tooth, it's, you know, really important to identify and work on that area of disconnect, right? Maybe that's through mindfulness, like meditation. Maybe it's through counseling. It's through some type of cognitive behavioral therapy or biofeedback, or maybe EFT tapping, emotional freedom tapping, right? There's all kinds of, you know, good resources to help you dive into that. And, you know, and I'll say prayer too, but I got to be honest. Most Christians that I know are the ones that have the sweet tooth, and most Christians that I know that they are not honoring God with their body when they leave, you know, church and go to Bojangles and get, I don't even know what's that, Bojangles, chicken strips or something. Like, I've never been there before. And like a milkshake, right? Like, they know they're not honoring the temple with which God gave them to be the best vessel they could possibly be. And so I, unfortunately, and this may sound a little blasphemous, but it's like, I really don't think for most people that prayer is your answer to unwinding your health issues, okay? Because number one, prayer and faith without works, you know, if faith without works is dead, well, like, you can't expect that that's just going to work. And so I just have a hard time believing that you're going to pray away your sweet cravings, right? Because again, for 99.9% of Christians that know that that's not what you should be doing, like, I'm pretty sure you've probably prayed for God to help you, you know, break that addiction and lose weight, but you still have it, okay? I'm not saying that, you know, there can't be a divine intervention, you know, for that, but my guess is that those results have not worked thus far. So it's going to, in my opinion, involve you digging in and really identifying what is your issue, what is the issue going on, and don't just think it's going to magically be prayed away, or, you know, like some type of curse that's lifted off of you because you find the right person to pray for you. So again, I hope that doesn't sound blasphemous, but maybe I can get an amen that it's like, it's time for you to do the work instead of just trying to pray your problems away when it comes to your health. It's like time to get some action here with all that. So sweet cravings are associated with organs of the spleen and the stomach, all right? And the element in Chinese medicine is the earth, okay? And so we'll find that oftentimes people, you know, that have these issues might have had maybe a difficult relationship with your mom, or you're not doing a very good job of nurturing or nourishing yourself in other ways. Oftentimes you're a person that travels a lot, right? And so you think about the kind of logic of this, it's like you're up in the air, right? And not on the ground. Remember, the element is earth, right? So anything that would involve like mothering, nurturing, groundedness, right, is a great way to help deal with these issues. Oftentimes, you know, you'll be overthinking things, being a worrywart. All of those emotions or actions actually disrupt, according to Chinese medicine, the spleen and the stomach meridians. And so what happens then is your spleen gets weak, and then that's going to cause pressure into your liver. Your liver is going to get sluggish, and then therefore not be able to contribute to the digestive process as much as it can, and then it therefore it backs up the stomach. And then you start getting fatigue, swelling, bloating, irregular bowels, right? And then weight gain, all right? And then you start seeing poor sleep patterns, frustration, irritability. You're waking up between 1 and 3 a lot. You might try to find other addictions to hit that vice. So you'll be maybe you know, drinking alcohol. Oh, I just have a glass of wine every night to unwind, right? And I'm not saying that there's necessarily for sure a problem if you have a small glass of wine to unwind every night, but you got to ask yourself, like, are you doing this for a positive reason, or are you masking something? Are you medicating yourself? Are you hiding something, right? Because all that's going to do is put further burden on your liver and just make this whole vicious cycle, okay? So some just really easy ways to kind of you know, deal with this these types of cravings would be to find sweet tasting herbs or spices that that aren't going to cause actual issues in your body. So doing some like vanilla or cinnamon tea, maybe some Tulsi tea, right? Things like that would be really great as far as a cravings buster. Coconut's also a great cravings buster too, because it has a little bit of a sweet tasting flavor, but it's all fat, okay, right? And I'm not talking coconut water. I'm talking like actual coconut, either milk or coconut meat or something like that, maybe some coconut flakes. So here's what your action steps are if you are finding that you're craving sugar, okay? So this would be a writer downer for those of you that are hopefully taking notes. So what you're going to do first is you're going to drink a huge glass of water, all right? I was looking for my glass of water, it's not in here. A huge glass of water, and then don't do anything for 15 minutes, okay? And I would suggest getting out of the kitchen, all right? Because if you linger in the kitchen, you're going to see, oh, the apples are right there, or I have some kombucha in the fridge, or you know what I'm saying, right? You get out of the kitchen. Then if 15 minutes go by and you're still having that craving, like it's not diminished at all, then why don't you do a huge heaping tablespoon of coconut oil, maybe sprinkle a little bit of cinnamon on there, or maybe you have an egg, or maybe you have an avocado, right? Do something like fat-based, right, instead of sugar-based, and then you wait another 15 minutes and see if the craving goes away, okay? If it still doesn't, then why don't you have like one little teeny tiny square, not like a bar, not a row, right? Not a chunk, like a square of intensely dark chocolate, like I'm talking like 85% plus, okay? Just one little square of that. Maybe a very small handful of berries, right? And then go for a walk, all right? And because so you don't like just keep lingering in the fridge and binging, or that lingering turns into binging, or you just start grazing. You're like, oh, I'm gonna have a few little blueberries here, and then like, oh, like I'm gonna have a sip of kombucha here. It's like, oh, like I may have a Zevia, soda too, and it's like, oh, like maybe I'll just have one more square. You guys know what I'm talking about. It's like if you hang around like the food trough, right, as for animals, like it's hard to say no. So you got to do that. So really you're looking at about a 45-minute process. And if you do all of those three things and your sugar cravings still don't go away, holy sweet Jesus, you need help, all right? And you better hire a professional to figure out what the heck is wrong with you, because you are screwed up if none of those three things even touch your sugar cravings, all right? So exercise is going to be a huge way to break that cycle and that pattern, right? Because it releases like a sufficient supply of neurotransmitters, endorphins, right? They're going to be calming, relaxing, and satisfying, and it's really going to give you some groundedness too. So to kind of summarize this up here, you really want to focus on finding sweetness in your relationships, all right? And not your bag of M&Ms, all right? So finding sweetness in nurturing yourself in your relationships and not your bag of M&Ms. If you're liking this so far, go ahead and smash the like button, and maybe even if you feel so inclined, you will share this, and hopefully we can all help each other with our cravings. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that. The next one we're going to cover is salty, all right? So the salty cravings, all right, is going to mostly rely on around your kidneys, your adrenals, okay? And specifically with water balance, all right? So the Chinese element for salty cravings is water. Remember, sugar or sweet was earth, all right? So salty is water. So typically people that have salty cravings live in a world of stress, specifically chronic high levels of stress, okay? Because what happens there is that with stress, it's going to deplete your adrenal glands, because they're the main glands that help your body respond to stress. And specifically, it's going to lead into a reduction of a hormone called aldosterone, which is responsible for regulating water balance inside of our body. And so that's why, again, it kind of makes sense. It's really interesting to me that long before we understood physiology in the way that we do, like this Chinese medicine, philosophy or practices, if you will, knew that there was a connection to stress with this, and it actually was able to be traced back and found, well, yeah, it's aldosterone, cortisol, in your adrenal glands, as far as how stress goes. So I just think that's very interesting, and those have a very intimate relationship with the water balance inside of our body. So when we're under stress, when we have anxiety, when we're experiencing emotions like fear, what happens is our kidneys and our adrenals tend to get depleted. So common symptoms that go along with this would be like chronic lower back pain, because your kidneys, right, are down in your lower kind of outer flanks, okay, just right above sort of the hip bone, the bony part you can feel in the back of your hips. That's where your kidneys are, a little bit higher than that actually, but they're kind of in that back side there. It's why people that are about to have a kidney stone or have kidney cysts oftentimes have lower back pain as one of their first symptoms before it starts radiating down into their groin. Anxiety, you'll be super thirsty all the time, be very hypersensitive. You'll feel cold a lot, not good memory, impotence, sexual impotence, right, or dysfunction there. Premature grain is another one, and you also have to pee a lot, right, thinking about that water imbalance. So the really key thing with salty cravings is to actually listen to it, okay? But the key is to respond with the appropriate types of salt, right? And of course, not the man-made, either synthetic or iodized junk, or, in terms of a super, hydrogenated, chip, right? Or something, a pretzel, right? Things like that, of course, are just going to create this whole vicious cycle with that. So quality salt. So, Himalayan salt, people say, what kind of salt do I want? I'm like, anything but basically what you find on the tables of most restaurants, right? But it would be, sea salt, Celtic sea salt, I don't care. Himalayan sea salt, real salt, right? Yeah, like it's funny that we actually just bought a bag of this at Whole Foods the other day, and it's like, the brand is literally real salt. It's like as if there's something other than real salt. It just kind of boggles my mind with all that. So making sure you're getting salt. Now, with salt, I could sort of blanketly say that pretty much every single person listening to this right now, even if you don't crave salt, I bet you your body is salt deficient. And so I would say you could pretty much get away with doing a half a teaspoon, if not a full teaspoon, if not more than that, at least 3 to 4, if not 5 times a day with that. But why don't you just, if you're not used to doing any salt whatsoever, I'd say a good place to start would be to do half a teaspoon of salt 3 times a day. You could kind of do it with every meal. If you do have trouble sleeping at night, especially if you wake up a lot between 1 and 3 in the morning, you could do that evening dose a little bit higher. Now, some people are more salt sensitive than others. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but if you find that having that kind of amount of salt sort of raises your blood pressure, then what I would do is just back down off the dose. Don't back down off the frequency. Maybe go to like an 1/8 of a teaspoon every 3 times per day, and kind of work your way up. Salt and blood pressure is a whole nother a seminar and topic that I'm not going to go into the intricacies of that. So just be smart about it. And if you have high blood pressure, make sure you're kind of tracking yourself on that as well. So bone broth is another good way to get to get salt too. Most good bone broths are gonna have a lot of salt in it. And interestingly enough, our ancestors, they suspect, because obviously there's no way to know for sure, but looking at ancient diets, like we're talking thousands of years ago, that the average human would have consumed anywhere from a half a cup to a full cup of salt every single day. So I mean, most of you probably don't even have more than a pinch per day, because you were told, oh, I got to avoid salt because it's going to kill me, or some BS like that. But obviously it's a lot of BS. So also too, with this, one thing that's really important is just to keep the whole mineral process in perspective. And so if you, especially if you're on a fat-based diet, like, which hopefully all of you are eating more fat than you are carbs that are watching this. If you're not, you need help and message me, right? But people that are on like a ketogenic or a mild ketogenic diet or a low carb diet, you definitely need to be consuming more minerals, definitely salt, but you may even want to be considering doing like a mineral supplement on top of that, because just to keep your body in optimal functioning. Unfortunately, we just don't get as much minerals from our food as we used to because of soil depletion, mineral depletion, and all that. So sometimes that's a time and a place for a supplement, just to make sure you get enough, potassium, sodium, chloride, magnesium, and all that. An Epsom salt bath also would be a great way to get some of that, but we want to make sure we're getting internal sources, not just sort of absorbed through the skin as well. So I, kind of play around with both. How do you know if too much salt is, or your salt is too much? Well, if you have like severe diarrhea after consuming salt, you're probably in good shape there, right? Or if your blood pressure goes way too high, then you may want to revisit that and, kind of find a happy medium there. Okay. So if you're a salty person and you haven't liked this thus far, give me a like. Just so you know, the reason why I ask for that is the more people that like it, it has more of an organic reach, okay? Like, I don't like to pay for Facebook ads and videos and all that. But not only is this is not even really directly leading to anything for me business-wise, but it just means that more people will see it, and it may be something that'll help somebody get healthier. So number 3 is sour, all right? So sour, according to Chinese medicine, calms the body and the mind, and it's believed to move liver energy. And specifically, it's tied with emotions of rage and depression, and sour helps to actually move those emotions out of the body. So the liver meridian in Chinese medicine is in charge of our emotions. So that's why if you have irrational behavior, maybe like road rage, or you tend to be a violent person, snap at people easily, or feel just like constant like brewing tension, or maybe you're like, you go from a silent kind of brewing storm to all of a sudden just a raging, Cat 5 hurricane, like on people. You might want to look at your liver, all right? Because according to Chinese medicine, that is probably a sign of liver congestion or liver issues. So good sources of feeding sour cravings are going to be something like apple cider vinegar or lemon, or some fermented pickles, right? So if you're feeling that kind of tension, depression, or anger brewing a lot, try taking a shot. Instead of a shot of tequila, take a shot of apple cider vinegar, right? And see if that helps to move those emotions through you quicker, rather than having them linger around and kind of fester, all right? So the 4th one, and I'm going fast here because I got 10% left on my battery, and I don't want to run and get my charger because all of you are going to leave, all right? So the 4th one and the final one is actually, we got 2 more, but the last one for flavors is spicy, all right? And spicy clears cold and wind from the body and is associated with lung energy, right? So think about cold wind and breathing right lung. So lung is associated with grief and loss, and is the element of metal, all right? So this type of dysfunction can show up as like allergies, a cough, deep body ache, okay? A lack of sweating or difficulty breathing. So if you have any of those issues, or I would say not any, but if you have several of those issues, looking at fortifying your lung function might be a worthy place to investigate. If you're the type of person that really gravitates towards like a spicy soup, or the flavors like garlic and ginger and pepper or onions, right? Those are all lung fortifying foods in Chinese medicine, which is really cool. All right. So if you're body ache, you don't sweat very easily, you have trouble breathing, right? Allergies, cough, things like that, what interestingly enough, just like specifically about garlic, like garlic is one of the most potent antivirals that we now know about, right? Allicin is a property within garlic that does that. So go figure that cough, the body ache, right? Being sick, viral, okay? It's like, how many times, if you're a patient of mine, have I told you, you'd be like, I've taken vitamin C, I've drank my water, and I'll be like, have you done garlic? And you're like, no. And then you do the garlic, and like you wake up the next day and you feel like 80% better. So I'm telling you, people, this stuff works. So spicy, lung, metal, right? Associated with allergy, cough, body ache, lack of sweating, difficulty breathing, okay? Spicy soups, etc. All right. So it's really, really, remember, important to listen to your body when you are under stress, okay? The greatest discovery you're going to experience about where your imbalances are, where your weaknesses are in your body or in your life in general, is going to come from when you're under stress. Okay, so listen to what your body is telling you. Now, the final thing I want to go over is a little take on fat. And what's interesting about fat is that fat can really take on any of the main 4 to 5 flavors. Okay, so for example, ice cream, right, is sweet. Fried chicken is salty. Kefir, right, is kind of a soury, right, a fermented dairy sour. You could get more of a, we didn't talk about bitter, but like, because not many people have this one at all, but bitter, you might like dark leafy greens sauteed in some butter, right? Spicy might be like a chipotle mayonnaise or something along those lines. So it can really kind of take on and really fit within any of those 5 flavors. So the problem is that, of course, as a society, we are getting way too many fake and man-made fats, right? So we go for the oil, the hydrogenated oil-drenched chips, right? The processed peanut butter, the soybean mayo, right? And all these other things. And really all that is doing is it's looking at satisfying like an inner longing that is not being met. So the problem is that it stagnates digestion. It starts sludging up your gallbladder and your liver. So you get bloating, sluggishness. Those issues then lead to a further sense of lack of self-worth and disconnect from others, right? I think another thing that you got to be careful for is that for those of you that are doing like a low-carb diet or have started a low-carb diet, if you recognize that a lot of you are going to immediately get on the nut snack wagon, right? You're like, you have to have a bag of nuts because, oh, well, there's not sugar in the nuts, and oh, they're raw, right? All these things. So you start justifying all that. But if it's like, if you can't survive without your nuts, when you go low carb, keto, or whatever, it's like, again, you have to identify what's the real issue going on here, right? So a lot of times we can medicate and even mask ourselves with things like seeds and nuts. You just got to be very careful for that, right? Like, how many of you have you've eaten, like half a jar of peanut butter, right, or almond butter or something, and it's like you still didn't feel satisfied in some way, or you had like an entire Ziploc bag full of almonds, like 40 almonds, right, and you were still hungry or unsatisfied. It's like, clearly, like, the nuts, right, were not the issue going along or what your body needed. So, okay, to quickly summarize, all right, if you enjoyed this and you're watching, give me a like and a share and a comment. If you're just hopping on, you can see this is 39 minutes long. I really started about 2 minutes in. Just look for me holding up my white little puppy, Juno, who's curled up in a little ball, sleeping behind me on the bed. That's where you'll want to start after you see her. But remember, cravings are clues, okay? Do not suppress them, right? Look for the cause of where that craving is coming from. Sweet is low energy state. Your body is starving for energy, okay? So we got to fix your energy stores, and we got to mainly look at again, where the disconnect is coming from in your life, okay? So remember we sweet is with the organs. Sorry, I have a lot of notes here. The spleen and the stomach. Okay. So look at nurturing yourself, mindfulness, right? Being grounded. Okay. Okay. So and then possibly look at fortifying your spleen. So and then doing like an herbal tea, like vanilla or cinnamon or something sweet tasting. Real quick, the sweetness cravings buster is huge glass of water. Wait 15 minutes, still there. Then you do a huge heaping tablespoon of coconut oil with a little bit of cinnamon on it. Wait 15 minutes, or eat an egg, or maybe eat an avocado. If it's still there, do one little teeny tiny square of super dark chocolate or a little bit of berries, right? And then go for a walk. And if you're still, like, again, if I summarize, if you're still screwed up after that, you need help, professional help, okay? Whether it's me or a psychologist, or I don't even know who that would be. So next one is salty. So salty is, the water elements. So kidneys and adrenals. It's the people that are stressed, chronic stress. You get depleted adrenals. So fear, stress, anxiety affects those organs. So you might have lower back pain, anxiety, you're thirsty all the time, poor memory, impotence, premature grain, right? You have to pee a lot. So getting quality salt is key to help with your water balance, right? So whether it's through bone broth or Celtic sea salt, Himalayan sea salt, right? Whatever, real salt, okay? Next one is sour. Sour is for calming the body and the mind, and it's believed to move liver energy. So if you feel easily enraged or depressed, right? You want to look at fortifying your liver and moving that out. So sour is a good way to do that. So a shot of apple cider vinegar and some water, or maybe some lemon juice and some water, a lemon in your water, maybe a few pickles or some pickle juice even. So if you're feeling, heated or in a debate, or, you're raging with someone on Facebook, on politics or something like that, then, you're going to want to take a shot of apple cider vinegar and try to, move on with your life. And then the last one is spicy, which, spicy, according to Chinese medicine, is going to clear cold and wind from the body. It's associated with the lungs, okay? Lungs are associated with grief and loss, okay? And the element of metal. So you might have this manifesting as an allergy or cough, body ache, you don't sweat very easily, difficulty breathing. So, you oftentimes are craving like a spicy soup, right? So, or maybe a lot of garlic or ginger or pepper or onions, right? All of those in Chinese medicine help move lung energy, okay, in your favor. And then kind of finally to summarize, remember just to really hammer this down, is that you need to really, really, really pay attention and become mindful of what your symptoms, what your cravings are telling you, especially during times of stress, okay? Because that is likely where the problem therein lies, and you need to investigate that. It's unlikely to be fully physical, but it's probably mental and emotional as well. So I'm going to go back here and check and see, because I saw a lot of comments that I wasn't able to get to all of these because I was ranting and raving and riffing. So let me see. Yep, dab of salt can work great. Sweet treats, I'm assuming you're talking about, Gina is talking about the gummy bears. Listen, I mean, I'm all about crushing those gummy bears. I can crush those gummy bears better than anybody. I could eat like 4 bags a night if my budget allowed me to. But I think, again, the bigger issue is like, do you need them? All right. Or are you in control and allowing yourself, or like, are you craving them? Yeah, stevia sweetened chocolate. Miriam asking about what about stevia sweetened chocolate bars at Whole Foods? So going to remember, it's not even so much the sugar, but is it where the cravings are coming from? So I would go back and just listen about the sweet part and see if there's any, of those emotional or mental voids that are going on with you that do that. So yeah, salty. Yeah, stress. People at work at stress, it's like popcorn, right? It's another huge one, right? I didn't even think about that, but like dousing your, popcorn with even extra salt. Yeah, love nuts. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of nuts anymore. I really am not. So I rarely, if ever, eat nuts. I mean, I'm probably maybe having just thinking about it, a handful of nuts once a month. I really don't think there's that much nutritional value. I think they're hard on the gut. They have a lot of phytic acid in there, which, I mean, unless you're smoking them, not smoking, smoking nuts. If you're not soaking your nuts, all that phytic acid remaining, which is an anti-nutrient. So I'm off the nut wagon. I really am. The only really seeds that the only nuts I really have are some pine nuts on occasion on a salad. That's about it. So, is it safe to take supplements at the same time as apple cider vinegar? Oh, absolutely. In fact, one could argue that taking apple cider vinegar before you have a supplement would be a good idea, because apple cider vinegar is going to prime your stomach for digestion, and it's going to help you break down, kind of pulverize down into the basic nutrient building blocks, and to be more helpful for absorption. So good question. So are there any other questions? I know there's 10 people still on here. I got 6% left on my battery life. So I'll wait and see if there's any other questions. Hopefully this was helpful. If you found this helpful, like I said earlier, a like or a share goes, or a comment goes a long way for organic reach and more people reaching this. That way I don't have to spend money if I don't have to help people get this more onto their smartphones or their living rooms. I'm going to hang up and go work a little bit more, get my blue light blockers on, and get some good night's sleep. So hope everybody has a great night. And on behalf of Juno, my pup, and I, thanks for tuning in. Good night.